Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and it is Friday, February the 16th, 2018, and I'm joined again by my two really good friends, my posse, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Okay.
And so tonight we're going to talk about, well, I should say, this is our third one tonight, so that's awesome. Thank you both for being here. BZ, you had shared with us a list of things that has been coming to you to talk about with us. Playing. I love the way you say that.
Yes.
We're going to play with this topic. And we're going to talk about swapping, about being victims, thinking we're victims, talking with someone else about being a victim. And that's actually, when people hear it like that, I don't think I'm a victim. But that's sort of a mentality type thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and a whole storyline.
Right.
So if you ask someone, how are you? And someone who may not even be recognizing, they say, I'm not a victim. I don't think of it that way. Yet you say, how are you? Then you go back, they go back. Oftentimes we'll be reaching back in time and whether they're saying, well, I don't have enough time, or this happened, and then I get, of course I get laid with this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and this. So that, yes, that is a victim. It's it's all your ego mind. Mm-hmm. It's all a false construct. It's all an illusion. It is not anywhere near anything at all, even resembling it in a very pale way, the truth of who you are. Even if from a linear standpoint, you say, well, X, Y, and Z happened to me, or I experienced that, and society or people language that as, the victim did this, that, or, this, she was a victim, he was a victim of X, Y, or Z. Okay, well, that's their languaging label, and it's done in a way, designed in a way to perpetuate a certain thing. And if that works for you, okay. But since we're not in linear Earth anymore, or a construct, or vibrational frequencies, we are in quantum. And even if people have different ways that they would hold that or not, something's up. That the world is all changing. That things are very wrong or unfolding to be very right. Again, however you hold that. And so it certainly won't hurt to play with these different frequencies and thoughts and languaging, and how, the things that we play with, because it will give you another perspective to hold something. And you'll have an inner direct experience of knowing of how that resonates or not with you, and how that feels for you or not. And if you get a really loud thing all of a sudden, or a really loud pushing away feeling, or a that's crazy talk, or whatever it is, then 99 and 9/10% accuracy is that that's your ego talking.
I get a question about that, because I've had I have taken issue with the idea of killing off the ego. And maybe that's my ego having that issue, but hey, I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to look at that. But I've also, okay, so for me, oh, wow. Oh, I know what happened. My computer went blank, or not blank, but it was this white screen. All of a sudden I was like, okay, where'd they go? Sorry. The previous video just finished rendering and popped up on the screen this big
Oh.
white blank, and it scared me. So I apologize for that. There's been a lot of stuff made out of killing the ego. And okay, so for me, I have had to come to terms with a terribly low self-esteem and not thinking very much of myself. And so for me, when I start thinking about, well, because the ego is, for me, I had come to this feeling that the ego is also part of personality. And if I'm coming into a factualized physical vessel, then personality is still going to be here. And to some degree, ego as well. So I don't think I comprehend exactly what is being said. I realize there are things about the ego that maybe aren't so great because it's been programmed and there are issues with it, and I get that. But I'm not sure I quite comprehend the idea of dissolving it all the way or killing it
Dissolving the
off.
linear aspect of it all the way, yeah.
Say what again now? I'm sorry.
Dissolving the linear aspect of it all the way, yeah.
Okay, so it's possible to dissolve the linear portion of the ego and yet keep the quantum portion?
Yeah, it would be, you would hold it as a different way. So you're going out of your ego mind to your higher mind. You're losing your mind, relinquishing the hold that your lower ego mind has on, which is the controller, the thwarter of the heart space, the thwarter of the intrinsic knowing and innate resonance that you feel with things that are truly a vibrational match to the truth of who you are. And okay, in that transcending, you're shifting to the higher mind, which is incredibly valuable and very, very powerful, and a delicious asset. So that's often a tool that I would use in the past when I would have, arguments and battles with my ego, is that I needed it, I wanted it, and I appreciated it. But for the truth of what it really was and how it served and the role that it played, which was in partnership and support in very wonderful, very specific ways that aided the heart that was leading all of it. And so, when that was made very clear, it's worked out beautifully. Once in a while, like I mentioned in a former video, it's, more than galactic sized and in the sense of retaliation. But that's had its purpose for, what came out of it. So from that respect, that's how I hold it. That's how I know a lot of people who talk about it hold it. I think sometimes there may be the frame of going to, using the languaging of killing the ego or totally squashing it, pushing away, all that kind of stuff, is because that's from the linear perspective, because they can't go where I want to go, and where I want to go.
This is the absolute first time I've ever heard it spoken about in this manner, ever, anywhere of any kind. I've only heard of dissolution. I've heard of killing it off, suppressing it, whatever. And all of those things felt very incorrect to me. This You're talking about transformation. Now that is something completely different. And
Well,
that,
it's the way I hold it and the way I've done it. Because, you know, we are truly in a battle right this moment. And the battle is really the only battle that has ever existed for the millennium upon eons. And that's the battle within. And that's another video. But yeah, so that's how I've you know, done that. So when we're talking about the victim, and what the thought that came to me on this was oftentimes people who may have been in the habit, in the routine, in the rut, in that frequency vibrational groove of the victim and the story and all that kind of stuff, whether they held it that way or you know, recognized that the way that they language things, the way that they speak, the way that they walk through the world, you know, how they interact and connect is clearly illustrated that way. And so the focus that was coming to me when I was driving was that what a lot of people are doing is they're taking, that's one of the reasons why I don't hold it that way in general, but one of the reasons I don't really like characterizing ascension symptoms, right? Because then there's something wrong with you.
Right.
If you got a symptom, there's wrong with you. And if one is in the habit of being the victim or having the storylines of that, now you are a victim to your ascension symptoms. Oh, I can't get out of bed. Oh, I get
right.
Okay, you know, or my body got, you know, some people refer to it as, you know, just this kind of, you know, lump of clay, or you know, kind of useless organic thing, and I just want to be effervescent, or you know, a meat suit, or any of those kinds of things.
Right.
And that's couldn't be the further from the truth of what is occurring right this moment.
Yes.
Right, but that's another video. So so anyways, what came to me is the thought is anytime. So this translates into, if one might currently be saying, well, you know, and languaging things in a way that they're a victim to ascension symptoms, or what was one of the other things I said? That you're swapping, you know, kind of the stories. You're swapping one
yes
perpetrator, you know, whatever that was. Now it's the ascension is the perpetrator of this, that, and the other thing. So that's actually for me, it's a bravo point, because it's another opportunity to have a catalyzing effect on you, and to then see those things, clean and clear stuff out, and integrate it, and notice what's actually going on. And it will change a huge amount of things, because it will actually shift you out of things.
So actually what I'm hearing here is, because I don't want to, all of a sudden I was like, okay, wait a second. We want to notice things. We want to notice things, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in the way that we might hold that noticing is what I'm hearing you say. Yeah, it's not something that's being done to me. I'm noticing that this is happening. And yippee, my body is clearing and cleaning something out.
Right. Better out than in.
Right. Yep. And that's much different. That the way of holding that is different than saying, oh, you know, this is happening now to me because of this ascension thing.
Yeah.
There, that I even I was going to say even I, like I'm less than that, but I can feel. Sorry, I can feel the difference in those two.
Yes. So instead of it being the theme of you being a victim, well, first you're a victim of this, that, and the other, and now this, like it's another thing being
Well,
done to you.
quite
Yeah, that doesn't
frankly,
negate that it may be painful or hard or frustrating or you bet.
no,
All
that's
of the
right. It doesn't.
above.
No, it doesn't negate any of that at all. The same with
It exacerbates it, is what it does.
Oh, sure.
right. But I mean, it doesn't negate the fact that it is painful because it might be painful, but dwelling on it and feeling it's this thing that's being done to you rather than, oh, hey, I'm getting rid of this thing. And oh, wow, that, because for me, I have noticed that it tends to go faster actually.
Yeah.
Also, in the same terms, okay, so it's not just about the ascension symptom attitude, it's all things, and one of the things actually is the system itself.
Right.
Because I'll be honest with you, I've heard a lot of the victim speak in regards to the system, the energy harvesting system in particular, and that and all of what that entails,
Mm-hmm.
which is still the money system and everything else. And there's a couple of different ways to hold that as well. I mean, it is a valid perspective that that's what this is, but it doesn't have to. I mean, I'm still in the system. I'm not sitting here saying, but I don't view myself as a victim of the system.
Okay. Right.
And I'm choosing how I'm going to interact with the system or not. So it is my choice. Just for me, now I'm not saying this is going to be for everybody, but for me personally, the way I look at it is that I don't know, it just feels different to me. I don't feel like I'm a victim of the system right now. The system is right at this moment, it is. But I don't feel like a victim of it, because at this moment of now, I'm still choosing to interact with it.
Right. But when you don't feel like a victim of it anymore, you actually have pulled the plug out of the system in large measure of what you were feeding it. Because victimness, victim energy, victim frequency vibration, and all that goes with it is a delicious culinary delight that is fed on by the various entities, by the former controllers, the very top former controllers who have been, there's a whole lot more still there, but that's a sustenance, just like you may like, an apple or a chocolate chip cookie or dark chocolate or whatever it is. It's and it's a source of food.
Right.
It's also a source of revenue stream on lots of other different things. So whether you've removed yourself totally from the system or you play in the system in a way knowing what's going on to serve you and skirt it in the different ways that you do, and do not allow it to have the hold on you in different ways that it had before, even if it's mostly to do with how your own energy interfaces with, then you have pulled the plug that you were feeding it.
Yeah. Okay. So as you were speaking there about that, there were two exact like little visions sort of that played out in my mind. Okay, so you got Sheila A over here, who's, oh God, gotta go make the donuts, and I hate this job, and I don't want to be here, and I really just, I don't wish I had. Or Sheila B, who's like, okay, it's time to go make the donuts, and we're gonna do this today, and hey, how are you? Those two feelings are completely different, and that's a different energetic. So I saw that whole thing come in just then.
Yes. It's the intention with which you perform the task. So, yeah, there are certain tasks. Maybe we still have to perform things that must be hoops that you have to jump through. But it's the intention that you hold when you're doing that. So you can hold it in an empowering fashion and say, I'm doing this because I'm going to make somebody else's day better, and my being here serves a purpose, and seeing the bigger picture in it versus feeling as though you're a victim and there's nothing you can do and you're stuck. So yeah, because those feelings, like BZ was describing, create a meal for, a whole plethora of beings and feeds the system even. And so if you can remove that feeding mechanism, and to me also then I'm not energetically charged by anything I'm participating in, then actually I'm doing the reverse. And I'm, like BZ was saying, my love and compassion is going up into those beings. And actually what I'm doing is breaking down the whole system of, feeding off of others. So you could look at it, the same act in one of two ways. And one is empowering and one is disempowering.
And you can go even bigger. You can go quantum.
Let's.
In that, there's standing room only ships and spheres and planets deep to get in here for this moment right now, and you can help shift it all from the inside. So you have your transmitter, you have roles to play and missions to carry out, and yes, part of them may be right in the making of the donuts or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so remember, there was a while ago I did, two videos that talked about 3 paths, and one was the path, and different beings are actively participating in 1, 2, or 3, or more of just 2 or 3, or whatever it is. So
Sure.
One of them is bringing the old down to a close and bringing it all down. The other one is to hold out hands and tell people that, yeah, it looks like hell right now and all this rubble, but the sun is shining and we can build. And then the new, bring the new one fully in. So if you're in the donut shop, just to use that metaphor, right? Now, you've got movies like, like Water for Chocolate. And all of where there's that love in there, where it is that energetic component and of what it is that you're creating, whether it's food prep or anything else. Right. Well, that's pretty vital, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now it takes a whole new meaning on that stuff. And so, okay, you would say, okay, well, people might say, well, I could see that. But then, because the victim is part of the ego mind, which is part of the lower mind trip and programming and the duality separate, structure there. Say, okay, well, but I don't have enough time, or I'm so tired, or all these kinds of things. Well, every time you just said that, okay, you just said 3 things that kind of all mean the same, and you all started them prefacing them with power words. I am. So if you shifted and said, I'm looking at this a new way. I'm feeling into this a new way. I'm realizing or recognizing that there's a different way to hold this, and I'm not as tired as I used to be, right? So you're not energized yet, but you're shifting that because you're the one who should. They're not actually doing anything to you. Okay, there is a on a lower frequency vibrational level, there is a symbiotic relationship of the, you know, harvesting in both ways.
Yes. The give and the take.
Well, that for me, that's an important point right there, because there are, I am seeing that, well, and let's face it, a lot of the victim mentality right now for me that I'm seeing out in the collective has to do with the money and the harvesting that goes on with that. The energy harvesting. There's energy harvesting going on all over the friggin' place for one thing. Let's just not kid ourselves. It's not just in the money.
No.
But that is the one that almost everyone is focused on, because at this moment of now, there's still, you know, it would appear from all, you know, corners that, you know, you still got to pay to eat and these sorts of things. So, but I have seen where, you know, it's like it gets mixed in with, well, you're excusing it on some sort of a spiritual basis, and that doesn't make it any better. It's like there's all these kinds of, you're trying to explain it away. It's like I have seen people fighting for the victimhood. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tooth and nail, cat scratching, you bet. A dog on a bone, and whatever euphemisms that's, you know, in the lingo that you can. Yes.
And just by the by, I have done it myself, and I've caught myself doing that as well. So it's not like I'm sitting over here all high and mighty saying, oh, I don't ever play the victim, because that would not be a true statement. So let me just go on the record right now as saying that. However, I have noticed for myself that I'm catching myself quite a bit. So there's that. I got that going for me. I might not have any much else, but I got that going for me.
Yes. And the more that I disengage from that behavior, the playing the victim, the better and better I feel, and the less I care to play that game anymore.
Well, it feels more empowering.
Yes.
For me.
Same.
To say, no, it's not that it's being, it just is on this planet at this moment of now. I feel strongly that it will be changing very soon. That's my feeling about it.
And who changes it?
Excuse me?
Who changes it? Do victims change it?
I feel like it's going to be all of us.
Oh yeah, it is. But if you're telling the story and playing the story over and over again as the victim,
right,
and you know, those spiritual nut jobs are just explaining it away, and you know, by God, they've been screwing us and this and that and the other thing. Okay, well, so that's a victim.
Well, okay.
How is that serving you? How is that bringing you, saving you, securing, you know, the unfettered access, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Or is the counterpart of the victim is the perpetrator, and then so you have to ask permission, or you know, they're ruling, you got to do it their way, or you know, someone on a white Charger is going to come galloping in, and you'll just sit here kicking back, you know, with your victimness, and they're going to save you. Well, that's not going to work. Why? Because it's all energy, and because all of those storylines and all of those ways that we hold things and swim in and play in and roll around in are energy, frequency, vibrations. And if you want to go to a place where you have abundance, where you don't have to worry, where you don't have whatever it is, where you truly, I should correct myself and be more, bring in more clarity there, when you truly want to be in a place of abundance and expansiveness and fun and the director of how much time you spend doing this, that, or the other thing. So if you truly want to do that, but beings who have played so long and oftentimes unconsciously in the whole victim, as evidenced by, well, I'm not a victim, or I don't play a victim, and then they write something or speak something or whatever, and you play it back to them and go, okay, how would you characterize what this person, I'm just playing your voice right here, we don't need to know who it is, right? Then that comes in. So if you truly feel that way, then you actually will realize that there's no platform in that frequency vibration that will get you anywhere near what it is that you want. It can't, because they're a mismatch to each other. In fact, because you are a creator being and you are incredibly powerful, when you tell that story and the variations on that story, whatever that story is, you actually are giving voice to it. You're pulling it into matter. It matters, and you're pulling into physical matter. So whatever that storyline is gets bigger, gets richer, gets more vibrant, gets more expansive, gets more detailed, gets more involved. And if it was crap, shit, garbage, victim, blah, 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 you just gave yourself truckloads more of it. And that's a celebration point.
That's why it's so important. Oh, shit. That's why it's so important in this moment of now for everyone, every creator being who knows who they are, that wants and holds a vision of that abundance in whatever manner and way. Oh, for crap's sake, I can't, this came in so huge just now. That's why it's time to stand up, step up, and start talking, and actually start voicing to anyone and everyone who will listen. This is the way I see it going down. I see this happening. I see that happening. Don't care what it sounds like to anybody else. Mm-hmm. Get it out. This is what I see. This is what's going to, because because
it matters, and you pull it into matter.
That's right. And just like the programming that has gone on and the distraction that has gone on for eons, directing the collective that way.
Right.
Now we begin, all of us as creator beings, start directing it that way. Or whatever way it is.
The way we desire it to be.
Yes, that's the whole idea of empowering ourselves. I'm sorry, I just got really excited about that because I'm
glad.
Woohoo! That is awesome. No, and that's why it's time. That's why it's time to start stepping up into who you really are. And yes, speaking it out into yes, because oh my God, I'm sorry. I just got all that. I mean, I knew it, but it just lit up huge for me.
Yeah, because you just dropped it from an intellectual exercise or reading it somewhere or talking a little bit about it someplace to now having a direct experience of knowing it. On camera, you just saw a direct experience of knowing unfolded. Right there. And a lot of beings, we've been doing this. So glad to have you come on board. Because we're all in this together, and we could use a little more together.
Yes. The more of us singing the same song, the faster we're going to experience it.
Yeah, so the
There's a lot
idea,
of heavy lifting, and we need you to pick the same thing up.
so I've been holding this for a long time, actually, that there are no saviors.
No.
And guess what? I got news for everybody. That includes Heather and Randy.
Oh,
I love them all, but that
let
is
me tell
not.
you, but she'd be the first one. She would be, yeah. I mean,
I realized that after having met her, yeah,
I'd vote for her for president, and I remember saying, "Wow, I can assure you that she'd absolutely cringe and hate that." You know, it doesn't like that. It's not who they are. It's not why they're doing it. It's the furthest thing from the truth. Are they busting their ass? You bet.
no, I get that, but the reason I brought that up,
so should everybody else be.
well, the whole reason I brought it up though, BZ, is because as I have witnessed all of this unfold over the last several, weeks,
Mm-hmm.
the feeling that this was going to release and save everyone has been huge. And the realization for me of no. I also see now why it couldn't. That's just one more reason why it couldn't happen that way.
Right. Each one extricates themselves. That's how this goes. Yeah. And that's why, remember.
Not just that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Well, I was just going to say that's why it had to go down that way too. Why things are happening the way they are, in my opinion, is because it needs to be looked at and understood. So you have to make the observation, and then you have to understand what you're observing, and then you have to change your perspective. And there's just as many perspectives as there are people out there. And so each one has to change. And like we've been saying all along, it's an inside job. So each one has to get to it. And when enough of us collectively have done the work, then we have collective changes.
But it's also
which we're doing now. I mean, we've beyond reached that point. But there is a frequency drag, weight drag, drag.
Yes.
On it when people are, it's not insurmountable anyway, and it won't change the effect of the outcome. It will change it for the individual beings who are being the drag on that, because they're shorting themselves,
right,
dragging themselves down.
Well, yes. What I'm seeing in this moment of now, when we're talking about this, and for some reason this is what brought it to me in this manner. Mm-hmm. Talking about the money system and everything that's happened. Even that is, we are multidimensional beings, so even that is part of this whole multidimensional layered thing. Yeah. That's why it couldn't happen. With them being found not guilty and unfettered access and all that, because and maybe it has happened somewhere else, but not in that manner, because like you said, first you have to see that there's the issue. There's an awful lot of folks that still haven't seen that there's this issue.
Right.
And so, having it permeate throughout those layers of not just your being in multi-dimensions, but the layers of the consciousness, because now I'm seeing that there's, within myself, I'm seeing that there are layers of my consciousness as well.
Yes.
So, okay, take it out, play it from a linear perspective, but on a multi-level linear perspective, right?
Yes.
So, one might point to over there. So that could be in Tennessee, Eastern District. It could be in Washington, D.C. It could be on this memo or that memo, or it could be on Rome. It could be, right. So that's it.
Right.
So, and there's a word with 3 letters that I've mentioned a lot. It's usually all cap, right? Okay. So all of that is where, going on where, systems and structures where?
in here.
all of those systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a universal cleanup. You heard that phrase? Universal cleanup, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that the universe is helping clean up? You bet. Does that mean that it's helping clean itself up? You bet. Does that mean that the systems with the judicial and the financial and all that kind of stuff reaches way off of this blue planet all the way to? You bet. Does it mean that the whole thing about satanic and the slavery systems of various different kinds reaches in the outreaches of everything? You bet. That's why that all word is a really good word, because it encompasses a lot, and it's all hidden in plain sight. So, you know, there's lots of movies around that spell it out. Jupiter Ascending is a really good one. There's some scenes in there that are not scenes from a movie, but they're giving you chapter and verse from a linear perspective. This is actually how it works and how it's gone down, and that's just a few shavings on the tip of the iceberg. And Source is not a victim.
No.
Right.
And you are Source, and you're not missing any. You may be playing small, you may be playing
and holding yourself back in some way.
But no.
But you can change that whenever you're ready to. Sure. I'm ready right now.
Yeah. So don't swap one thing for another, you know. So I'll give a really good example. This comes to mind. We were talking a little earlier about the quantum roundtable conversations that I did. And so I would ask, you know, one of the ways to get people used to that kind of format was to really step in. That was the whole idea. Step up, step in, right? And give voice to what you want to give voice to. So you could start to realize that this is what you were doing.
Yes.
And some people, because it was, without even knowing it, their habit, they would start telling a story. And the story would thread back many years or more, and was actually multi-generational, and, you know, it was this saga, which really was a victim story. And so I would stop them and say, okay, could you take a moment and bring yourself to the present moment, and then share what you want to share that's related right to this moment of where you are. Now, if they had gone into something that was a struggle or whatever, okay, great. But oftentimes what happens, which is the reason that I frame the question that way, is that they're carrying that thread of the story of the victim, and it started back there, so they can't be in the moment. They can never be in the moment because they're always back locked in that aspect, that frequency vibrational aspect, and, you know, time as a construct aspect back there, and they can't do it. Now they can just have a conversation right in this moment, which lets them relax and leave off of that story. And now they're having some time where they can actually experience, express, and expand themselves in the moment, which is not that story.
Right.
Which for themselves, they can have a conversation, but they can also now experience, if not just for a moment, because they like to go back there usually because it's a habit, and, of being closer to the truth of who they are, which is right here in this moment.
Creating in this moment. So you don't want to bring that storyline forward and
if someone says,
creating.
you know, how was your day? So I'm tired, and, you know, this happened, and so I was tired, and then I got behind and this, and, you know, again, that's kind of a setup.
Sure.
With, you know, so if you pluck one of those pieces, which are the integral threads for that storyline of always running late, always tired, always, you know, and it's different for different people, but that's a common one, right? sets this
Yeah.
whole spiral. Okay, well, right in this moment, do you feel that there's is life absolute? You know, you could play it one way or the other. You could go to the doom and gloom and whatever, and you know, shrieking pain or whatever, and they go, no. Oh, well, good. So tell me about that. Tell me about what encompasses that space.
So for me, again, as we're discussing this, it comes back for me to a matter of habit.
Yeah.
A habit that I'm noticing and then changing as I don't wish to continue on in that manner. So
no
for
longer being complicit in.
there we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No longer wish to be complicit in that.
Yep.
Would much rather be more empowered, moving in a different direction.
So another way you could hold it is you're taking your power back.
Yeah. Well, now see so there was a part for me there that I know that there's a lot of folks that don't even realize they have any power, and that's a big that's something that, you know, there's a first step is
Yeah.
Guess what? Yes, you do.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. But this one was really big for me because, you know, first of all, the explanation that you offered, or okay, not the explanation, but the way you hold and shared with me your, the way you hold in regards to ego, I'd never heard that before. And that, I have to tell you, feels different to me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I really get that whole feeling into things too now with my consciousness, the way it's grown some, that the way I'd always heard this described prior didn't feel right to me. I don't want to kill off any parts of me. Thank you very much. I'm done with that. Not into that at all. Transitioning from something that wasn't serving me into something else, that I can get behind and feel better about. So thank you for that very much. That's much different than dissolving or getting rid of or killing off something. And because what you were stating is that it's not going to be gone. It's going to transition into a higher, which makes sense too, since that's what this whole thing is about, right? Raising the frequency. So I have a feeling now, this is not it's going to sound like, oh, wow. Sorry. I just, okay. With quantum, I'm so dizzy. I can't hear myself. So there are spiritual traditions out there that talk about killing the ego. Is it just that they weren't phrasing it right? Did I miss something? Because,
well, I'm not the spiritual tradition that you're referencing, so
okay, so that's not fair
too.
too.
Their motives.
Well, thank you for sharing yours, because like I said, it just makes me feel better. So.
I'm just a girl and her dog telling you how I see it from my perspective. whatever that's worth.
Well, I'd like for you to hug Keegan for me. That star dog's really got it going on there. As do you. So as that ego mind transitions, it's very, I would imagine that victim mentality will go with it, won't it? Because that's what's happening for me here, isn't it?
Yeah, they're mutually exclusive of each other.
Okay.
Just like the patriarchal male energy, which is the lower, denser patriarchal male false energy, is being, you could say dissolving, you could say phasing out, you could say it's no longer in the higher frequency vibrations, there's no place for it anymore on Gaia. You could say being torn asunder. You could say a lot of things about it, but now, does that mean that there is no male frequency energy? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But it means that there's a higher frequency of it, just like the divine feminine.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask then. So that actually is transitioning into the sacred masculine, or okay, that's what I was wondering, because you hear a lot about the sacred masculine, and so
it's very different, and you can see, and the I'm going to bring this point up just for a moment because it's flashed into me, is that just because there is a female body, so there's three here, right? Female body is not just female or feminine energy. It's actually the holding of the balance of the divine feminine and the sacred masculine that's coming together.
Well, I can feel that's so, as I actually have now experienced being in the presence of not just females that are having this reunification, if you will, of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, but I have now also had the privilege to have conversations with males who are doing the same.
Yes.
Not many at this juncture have I been exposed to. It's not their fault by any means. Lunacy, Taliesin, both come to mind.
Yep.
Are gentlemen that I have had conversations with on my channel here that are very good representations of that to me.
And then there's some that the phrase in my mind comes to me as, and I don't mean any nothing but love and expansion when I hold it, is the baby sacred masculine coming in male beings, where there's that holding of the two. It's like they may not even be awake, but you can see that starting to happen. You can see the different changes, and they can feel it, especially if I haven't been talking to them, because let's face it, I'm out there. So even in a toned down way, I can be out there, and they don't get all of it, particular two male beings I'm talking about, but they get a lot of it, and there is that, because there's that playful resonance in it, it makes them smile, even though if someone said, well, what are you talking about, they wouldn't know how to do it, but because they can feel that change within themselves happening as well.
Yes, and I because I've witnessed that even in my own son, as you know. I mean, I feel I saw that, mm-hmm. and I feel that. Yeah. Wow, this has been a big one for me. Thank you so much. On a lot of levels, because I have stepped out of that victim mentality quite a bit myself. But the ego mind was a tough one for me. But I didn't really connect that they were, in a way, sort of connected.
Not sort of.
Just completely.
Yeah.
Okay, that. Well, I think there's like multiple layers to again, we're multidimensional beings. So in every one of these subjects, I can feel now the layers in these subjects, and I can feel them sometimes in my consciousness, and sometimes I'm not sure where it lands at first, because it's gotta set a while for some time.
So this is a vision that just came in my mind. So if you think of the ego as being on a chariot, right? And it's, war and battling and all that kind of stuff. And it's got holding the big leather reins, and behind the big silver thing that's, front of the chariot. And it's got this huge team of, well, they could be horses or they could be other kind of mythical beasts that are, charging through. So the victim is one of those, but you could name, they're all part of the ego. They're all part of that grasping hold that it has, right?
Mm-hmm.
A linear lower density. But you can name other things as well. Of course, those are all other conversations, but but yeah. So what you said, so just like I said, so it's like that. I said, no, it's exactly that. But it's also, there's a bunch of other.
Right. That's why I said layered like that, because it is. It's broad.
But they're all driving, grasping, holding on to you is another way to frame it, to keep pulling you down. And if someone kept going around having all this stuff thinking about killing me off, I'd be probably a little graspy too.
Well, there's that.
Well, I've said, I think the part of the reason I had so much trouble with it for me was I kept seeing, and I still do see, out in the field around me, and there's no one I can actually point to, but there's been spiritual teachers and gurus and all of this that are saying, that this is the way you do it. You kill off the ego, dissolve the ego, and they've got some of the biggest egos I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't get this at all. It's like, it was for the same thing for me as it is with like religion and all this, all this love and love each other. And then you want to kill this guy over here because he doesn't believe the same thing you do. It's all nonsensical. So it didn't make any sense to me. And so thank you very much for that. That was actually very huge for me. Well, that's it for me, lady. Anything that you would like to add? Because I'm just like very dizzy and very grateful for this conversation and the two of you.
It was beautiful.
So Lisa, we started out when we started this, earlier tonight, and you were saying when you were reading that piece of paper, yeah, that was hitting a lot of things. In this particular one, did we hit all of the things that had occurred today?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, I think we did. Maybe not in this conversation, but in all three. Yes.
Yeah, and we only did 2 of the things on the list, and we added 2 more to the list.
Well, see.
You added 2. I added 3.
Myself, so we got.
Oh, good.
You added 2, but I added another one.
Okay.
The battle within.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No, my list
more
is
to play with,
Yes.
I was going to say our list is really growing. And I will say this before we end. Again, with the comment sections, that's another. If there's something you'd love to see us talk about, or you have questions or whatever, either the comment section or my email address, which is in the body of every video, and we're happy to talk about it. I have been contacted, and so there are some other folks that I will be talking with, and I just love to talk, so I think it's awesome. Thank you, ladies, for coming and joining me again.
Thank you.
And as always, I will have links to BZ's blog at the IUV and Lisa's 2 blogs, Heart Song Musings, and also Rush Solutions, Tools for Transformation. And as always, the link for the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page will be in the body of this video, as well as my email address. And if you want to be a part of the PPC squad, that's the Puzzle Piece Collecting Squad, just send me an email and put add me in the subject line, and I will add you. I don't and will never share those email addresses with anyone without your permission. So thank you, ladies.
Thank
And I
you.
guess till next time.
Bye.